And we're back, take 3.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the show, The Dangerous Show. It's Talon Sei and me, Tim at Adrenaline Vans.
What's up, everyone? This is the first podcast. This might be the first podcast you post.
This most likely will be the first podcast I post because we did 2 failed attempts to record one with Marissa when she was here, Boundless Babes. And I screwed up the audio in the first one, screwed up the video in the second, and can't get it on my computer. So
well, hopefully this one works. I know those struggles. Like when I was setting up my whole podcast setup, it took me like tons of trial and error. And then you're sitting down recording for an hour. Right. Next thing you know, you're missing 30 minutes of footage or whatever.
That's what happened with Marissa. We were take 2. We had a great conversation. You know, an hour and 50 minutes in, I was like, man, awesome. We crushed it. And went and looked at the phone and I lost an hour of it.
It sucks so much.
Yeah, well.
Oh, you should explain the name of the podcast in case, I mean, I'm sure everyone who's listening to this right now knows the story, but
right.
Where did the Dangerous Show come from?
Dangerous, stupid, irresponsible, and foolish.
Yeah.
So back up to a couple months ago when I rolled my van, I posted a video, and that was kind of honestly, that was the start of my YouTube. Yeah, I had a channel a year ago that I started for the business, but never really posted anything.
Well, starting with a bang, because like I had called you, or I was talking to, I think, Dave from Alvans.
Yeah.
And he's like, did you talk to Tim recently? I was like, no. He's like, dude, check out his YouTube channel he started. And I saw you roll the van. And I was like, oh my God.
I mean, I just went all in with the video thing. I was like, dude, if we're going to do videos, let's do some clickbait. I'll just roll my van. It'll start my channel.
Yeah. And then it gives you content to build this new one sitting outside.
Right. So I had the channel, and it was one of those things like, oh yeah, I'm going to do YouTube. We'll get to it. I'll do some videos one of these days. Never did anything. Mm-hmm. And then, I rolled the van completely out of the blue, not expecting it. Again, it was a total accident, just a freak thing in the wintertime, snowy conditions. Mm-hmm. And as I'm standing out there, kind of in shock, but like assessing the situation, my buddy came to help. He's in his adrenaline van on the side of the road. Logos everywhere. We're all wearing adrenaline gear. State patrol are out there. And people are just driving by on this road, like filming with their cameras. And all I can think of is, shit, this is going to be on the internet before I even get home. You know, so
I got to put myself on blast before all these random 100%, strangers do it.
100%. So like as soon as we got back here and unloaded the van, I just took a quick video, kind of explained the whole thing. And I had a little footage of the recovery.
Yeah.
And so I just did an explanation, and then like a couple days later posted a video where we showed the van getting pulled out of the ditch and stuff. And that was kind of the start. You know, I think we titled the video, "Did I Just Total My $200,000 van?" And we did. I mean, they totaled it. It was a mess, but that forced me to kind of make that first video.
Yeah. And
then just kind of keep up on it, and it's been good. I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy making videos. It's the hard part for me is just finding the time and then having the time to constantly improve my workflow on the production side of the video stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's you speed up over time. You find what works and doesn't work. But then how does that lead into the dangerous, irresponsible?
Right. So I posted that first video showing the van getting pulled out of the ditch, and some internet troll commented on everything that we posted. So like Facebook, Instagram, and then of course Illuminess and some of our other partners like reposted our video.
Yeah.
And he like went to the trouble of posting this comment on everybody's
just copy paste.
Yeah, copy paste basically. And I could pull it up somewhere. I have it saved.
Yeah.
But it was basically, this guy always struck me as a goofball. Seems like a total tool. It didn't take long for him to prove himself. I posted this on Illuminess's thread, and I'll post it here too. But he's like, dangerous, stupid, irresponsible, foolish, adrenaline vans, you know. And at first I read that and I was pissed. So I just blocked him because, you know, I don't engage with trolls. It doesn't matter. And then I was telling my girlfriend this, and I was like, yeah, can you believe this guy? What a jerk, you know? And she's like, dude, that's a bumper sticker. And I thought,
that's a good slogan.
Shit, you're right. Like that, let's embrace this. So I called my design guy and I was like, hey man, he does all my logos and stuff. And I was like, what do you think about this? And he goes, fuck yeah, we're doing it. He's like, you drive a ridiculous van. You have a mullet. Like you should absolutely just embrace this. And let's do t-shirts. He goes, I'll design a logo for you. You know, stickers, everything.
Sold a ton of those already.
Yeah, like pre-sold a bunch of hoodies and stuff. Those are dropping in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And then I was like, dude, I've always wanted to do a pod, like even more so than YouTube. Like I've always just wanted to do a podcast because I love the long form, you know, kind of means of communication, actually getting to sit down and talk to people for a long time.
Yeah. It's not so processed like other forms.
And plus I wanted to do something where I could just be myself and express myself and show my personality and not have to have that forward facing sales face on like we do at all the shows. And I have a lot of buddies in industry that are super cool people outside of the sales front that they put on.
Yeah, we're all like normal dudes, and a majority of us are friends.
Right.
So it's like we all kind of live the same.
You have like this dual personality, right? Because, you know, during the day at like these expos and events, you know, you're professional. Well, some of us are professional, but
some can't speak for
there's
everyone.
There's a few out there. I'm not going to mention names, but Dave, if you're listening.
Yeah, hey, Dave.
And then, you know, the show closes, the customers leave, and then the true like characters come out.
Yeah.
And everybody's making fun of everybody, making fun of ourselves, right? And just kind of joking around about how this industry tends to take itself way too seriously.
Yeah. And that's what's cool about like taking that comment and turning it into something like positive, kind of like poking fun back at that guy for trying to thrash you or whatever.
Yeah.
So many people in the industry take themselves way too seriously. And even like you said, after Expo, like when professionalism typically drops off and you become a normal person hanging with your friends, some people don't make that transition.
They can't turn that switch off.
Yeah.
Right.
And that, like, I can understand that, like, people who are just very business driven, but it's like, man, there's so much more to life than what you're doing right now.
Right.
Just enjoy yourself, man. Just relax a little bit.
Yeah. So I wanted to have an outlet where I could express that side of me and also bring my friends in and kind of show our viewers, you know, customers, fans, the inside peek at that industry and kind of reveal the characters, you know, because customers talk to these people all the time, but they know one version of them. They wouldn't know one version of that company. Yeah. Or maybe they just are familiar with the company and it's easy as a customer to kind of forget that the people running businesses that you do business with are just real people, you know, and they have real struggles and they have employees they have to try to, you know, work with. And it is a struggle. And so it's easy to just get pissed at a company. And then when you realize like, oh no, they're real people. They're really trying that, you know, there's a human side to it. I like seeing that.
Yeah. There's a lot of industries in general that like don't have that. It's just like strictly business and professional, but like what better industry than the whole van world than to actually have a true personality? Yes. Like it's all about just freedom, being outside, doing your own thing. And like, to be like uptight corporate stiff, like it's not fitting.
It is a cool industry in that regards where a lot of people that work in it, they make their living in it, they also truly live the lifestyle. I mean, Marissa, for example, my social media manager, lives in her van 100% of the time. And, you know, a lot of people use this van life thing as a popular hashtag, but don't really live it. And the industry is pretty full of those people that, you know, they work in it, they live in their van, and they still love it. You know, they're not burned down on it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's a lot of balance to find with that too. Like, I lived in my first van, traveled in that for a while, and like it's a big adjustment. But once I got there, like lived in it for 2.5 years and then built my house, that it was a weird transition going from like all of that freedom being on the road all the time to like having a homestead. It's nice. I mean, I have a garage, I can keep my shit in it, but I do truly miss like just having really no responsibilities at all. Just taking the roads wherever it goes.
I kind of went the opposite direction. I had a van and I lived in it for 3 years and then decided to start a business in the van space and then had to completely shift and, be in one place all the time and buy a shop. And
now we're looking at your brand new shop out the window over here.
Yeah, it's exciting. Then I'll have actually a really nice place to live.
You're going to put the dangerous, irresponsible.
Yeah, it's going on the building somewhere.
Just big neon sign.
We're doing like you think you saw it yesterday, a 12-foot sign on the front of the building. Yeah. It's backlit. But I think we definitely need a dangerous sign or maybe a flag or something.
The one of those like banner flags, the skinny ones.
Yeah. I can't,
or a wacky waving inflatable arm.
Actually, I put like a trailer hitch mount on the front of my new van specifically so I could build a big flagpole mount for it for the shows to have the dangerous flag up there.
The higher the better.
Yeah. I know few people have their flags out there for the shows, so I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So speaking of shows, man, I think we've got a couple coming up here soon.
Very soon.
I'm actually excited for them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready to go see the circus again.
I wish I could go to all of them because I know there's I'm going to this event in Bisbee, Weird Wild West, next weekend. It's going to be cool. Good time. Not really an expo, more of like a hangout, just van gathering. And then what's after that?
San Juan Capistrano's last weekend this month.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
I wish I could do that. I got to head home to get my truck ready to come back to Arizona for Flagstaff, which is the week after that. So I'll see you there too.
Yeah, Flagstaff will be fun. I love the Overland Expos just because I can see a lot of the crazy big truck stuff, and I it's a break from the vans.
Yeah, I've never been to an Adventure Van Expo yet.
Oh, really?
Which is surprising because there's so many of them. Yeah. But they're kind of all over the place. Like I know a bunch on the West Coast, California. There's Big Bear, I guess. There's one. Tahoe, yeah. And I love those places, but it's so hard to drive from Colorado out there,
right? And
just to do one trip. But
right,
I'll hopefully be able to make some of them this year.
So, how many rigs are you kind of juggling this year for your everything that you do with the video production stuff and your partnership deal? Is like you just the 2 rigs, the van and the truck?
Yeah, the van and the truck. I still have my Revel, which is for sale if anyone wants to buy a super highly modified Revel.
Shameless plug here for the Revel.
Shameless plug, buy my old van. Yeah, trying to get rid of that. It's just costing me money right now because I have it in storage and paying insurance on it and stuff. Love it to death, but it's business decision wise. I mean, the Storyteller is so next level compared to that. I mean, it's a 5-year chassis difference plus all of these new products that weren't even available when I built the Revel.
Oh yeah. So that is pretty cool to see the evolution of the industry in like just the last 3 years even.
Yeah.
From 3 years ago to now, what is out there for, battery technology.
Lighting,
aftermarket accessories that are available from a multitude of brands.
All the bolt-on stuff. Like the Revel was really one of the first turnkey Class B options, which is why I went that route. I didn't have the time or patience to build it myself.
Yep.
I just wanted to travel. So I bought what I could. I mean, the van is killer. Like as I traveled in it for 2.5 years, I built it up. I visited the guys at Agile. I had Rome Rig do the whole lithium thing, which was a game changer. Huge game changer. Dude,
Aaron, basically, if you're watching this, Aaron, everything that you bring to the table has been a massive game changer.
Massive game changer. We just installed a 10-inch beatbox. Game changer.
Total game changer.
Dialed that thing in.
Yeah.
Solid.
It's got the little noise filter on it that eliminates all the chassis whine and all that. That's a big game changer too.
Big game changer. So
for those that don't know that are watching this, Aaron absolutely hates the word game changer. So
and rightfully so. I mean, it is super overused in all the van groups that I see. They're like, I just installed these fucking
just put death on my van. Game changer.
Game changer. Yeah. Like, okay. But yeah, so like built my van out as these new products were coming out, and now say 4 or 5 years later, starting fresh with a brand new base Storyteller Classic.
Right.
And I can work with all my friends in the industry that I've built for the past 5 years to, I mean, really make it, in my opinion, the best of the best. Like,
so I guess we should explain to viewers this last week. I mean, and let's back up. So just a quick overview. You came out on Monday with your Classic, and we were kind of the last stop of your whole build process for that van.
Yeah, and it's been quick. It's only been a month and a half, maybe 2 months now that I've owned the Storyteller.
Right.
So it started with like a kind of West Coast trip. I went straight from Birmingham, Alabama to Lake Tahoe when they were getting a blizzard. So I got some skiing in there. and then went down to Canyon Adventure Vans, visited Jason, did the whole interior. S&B Filters did the long range tank. Owl did the whole
rear door carrier stuff,
and then Van Compass for suspension. And then I had told you about the Storyteller project like before it even came to fruition, and then we were kind of planning. I was looking forward to this past week for a long time.
Right.
I was like, this is the final touch. Like the van is going to be so sick, but then when I come here and leave now, it's like exactly how I want it. So yeah, huge laundry list. I planned on filming kind of like
we had a lot of grandiose plans about filming every step of the way.
Yeah.
And
it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. I mean, the thing is, like, on paper, it didn't look that bad. You know, the list of stuff we were going to do didn't look that bad, but we just went super deep when it came to the electrical and the install of it to make it perfect.
And that's one of the reasons why I came to you. I mean, I've seen the quality of work that you guys do here, and the wiring is one thing that I have told you multiple times. Like, I hate electrical. I'm too OCD, and if I were to install like everything that Will did yesterday,
yeah,
dude, like that would have taken me so long, because I mean, he's obviously great at that stuff, and he's kind of showing what he can do, and it was just like it's so clean under there.
Yeah.
And if I was doing it, I would just spend too much time like with a little zip tie or like whatever.
Well, you know, basically we did a ton of auxiliary lights. We did an aftermarket stereo.
We did the amp research steps, Shieldman seats,
Shieldman heated seats. So we did all that. I mean, harness. we did a lot of electrical.
Yeah.
And one thing that I love is, you know, if you were to look at the van, you really couldn't see any of it. And if you open the hood, everything looks as if Mercedes installed it.
Yep.
It's super factory, super clean. And if you open your battery compartment to change your battery, if you go to the dealership or something, that you cannot, there's not a single terminal on your battery that wasn't there from the factory.
Yeah,
it's totally clean.
The techs would probably understand what you did definitely if you pulled the driver's seat off.
Right.
But if someone like who's not super familiar with a Sprinter, they would look in there, they'd be like, where are you pulling this power from?
Yeah.
Are you pulling it from the house battery back there?
Well, and that's another thing. It's a 2023, so it's the first time we had this chassis in and really went this deep on it. Mm-hmm. And so we learned a few things under the seat base when it comes to adding auxiliary power. Normally there's some upfitter, fused posts that are available for pulling power that are super hidden. Mm-hmm. But in this case, we didn't have that in your van. The capacity was there for it, but we had to. What do? We laser cut some copper.
Yeah.
I mean, we were working with Aaron at Rome, and we were kind of working through it together. So like literally one evening, we're like, dude, there's no way to get aux power here. So we catted up a design.
Yep.
Aaron sent it to his guy who laser cut it overnight. We got it over to here. I threw it on the brake and made the bends like we needed to make it fit just perfect. Yep. And then threw it in and we're able to make it work. And now we found that we could buy Mercedes parts, after the fact if we wanted to get them in time. But it was a crazy quick pivot to figure that out. And basically the next day have a factory quality solution.
There was a lot of that this week too, just like kind of moving with what we had. I mean, we had a huge pile of parts. It was kind of overwhelming looking at it like on Monday.
Right.
And then as we're slowly chipping away, we're like, okay, the pile's going down, like things are getting installed. And then there were a few things that I had to like reach out to people or order stuff to overnight it.
Yeah.
Like small electrical things, like we needed a 100 amp relay for this crazy powerful light bar that we put on the roof, so ran out.
We needed some brackets for your light bar to make it work with the front runner. There's just a lot of stuff we did that had never been done before.
Kind of like very custom, like it, which is cool in my eyes.
We don't do custom.
Yeah,
zero custom.
No, this is all a learning experience with the new chassis and everything, but like. It's cool because we did it very well too, even though like I had to drill some holes and like open the roof rack for those brackets and stuff. So if someone sees that and wants to replicate it, I can tell them how I did it, but it's not like you just buy this and bolt it on. So you need to have a little bit of know-how to make that stuff happen. It
was a fun project for sure. And hopefully you enjoyed yourself while you were here. I mean, basically Talon, just posted up at the shop for a week.
Yeah, slept here.
Yeah. It's not. We don't let people sleep in the shop, dude. You didn't sleep in the shop.
I didn't sleep here.
No.
I did get a hotel.
one night. Yeah. But it was awesome that you were wanting to be a part of it and help, build this out. Obviously we don't let customers work on their vans here at our shop, but this, thing we had talked about for a long time and wanted to do it together and kind of film it and make it happen. And it was great because we were able to basically squeeze you during this week while we had a full workload. And I had my brand new operations manager working and like training, getting up to speed. We had a ton of installs. I mean, you saw all the people that came and went throughout the week and drop in customers and all that. So, I'm constantly running around like crazy in and out of the office and trying to get it done. So I felt bad all the time because I was like, man, I need to be working on Talon's van, but
no, it's good. Like I know it's stressful just with customers walking in, and like I know we talked about like kind of the whole plan for a while, but I'm happy I was able to help for a few reasons, because one, I get to use your shop, which is so rad. I mean, you got tools for everything. Like I'm like working with something that I just have in my hand, and then I'm like, Tim, like, what do you think about this? And you're like, oh, here, use this thing. And I'm like, what? I didn't even know this thing existed.
Right.
So you got like specialty tools, which make things go way faster. And then even like some of the wiring stuff that I don't like touching, I'm like kind of just shadowing you guys. So now I know if I have an issue in the future, which there's issues with vans all the time, doesn't matter how good you build them, I'll be able to troubleshoot that stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, this isn't working, so let me check this wire, or like, it just makes my life easier in the future, being a part of it. So I'm thankful I was able to help. It was cool.
Yeah, no, it was cool. It was always funny, I'd turn around and you'd be trying to do something with, I don't know, like just a generic tool. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing? You're like, where's the right tool for that? I'm like, 5th drawer down, right-hand box.
Yeah, you're like
back left corner. You're like, what the fuck?
Head's in an engine bay. It's like, 3rd drawer down on the left box. I'm like, wow, he knows exactly where the shit is. Yeah. And there's a lot of boxes.
Ashley, your girlfriend was here for a little while. And same deal. I'm like under the van. And my guy is like, hey, we just got this pallet of bumpers or something. What are they? And I'm like, what's the part number? He reads off the part number. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a backwards rear, whatever the hell. Put it over here. And Ashley's like, what?
How do you know that?
Good with numbers, I guess.
Even Brooke did that too. I had a little tiny box it had Agile tape on it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this might be the door extender, like, because it was just a small box
spacer.
And I was like, there's no marking on it. I was like, that must be what it was. And then there was a tiny little sticker with some numbers on it. And she like just saw a glimpse of it. She goes, no, that's a horn kit. I was like, what? I was like, you know that already? That's crazy. So she knows her stuff too.
No, she's rad. And Brooke didn't get to help out a ton on this.
Yeah, she was doing most.
She did a little bit of like maybe installed the compressor, I think.
Yeah,
but
pulled the bumper off.
Yeah, she was like basically keeping the shop rolling this week while I was tied up with your van and other stuff. And then Will was working on main production as well. And then final day he came through and basically did all the final wiring in the engine bay. Yeah, where we tied all of your lights and accessories to your Garmin. Mm-hmm. And he did a great job.
And we like worked some long hours, but in the end, like there was never a point where I felt like super stressed. I don't know about you. Like we
no.
At the end of every night, we would kind of make a checklist. Like, okay, this is what we'll start on tomorrow. And
I think what helped the most was that you didn't have a set timeline, right?
True.
Like you had kind of an open-ended deal. Mm-hmm. And when we first sat down, I was like, oh yeah, I think 3-4 days will be done. That never really happens. And the fact that you had flexibility was huge for peace of mind. Otherwise, I probably would have been stressed.
Yeah.
But it seems like every industry build, and I always talk about this, where if I bring another industry partner in to help build their van, for instance, we did Andreas's van for SEMA last year, and we did the same thing. We had a huge pile of stuff and just did it in 1 week. Crazy late nights, the same exact thing. It always feels like that's how it happens. You plan it. You've got professionals that are planning this stuff ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And on paper, you're like, yep, that's 4 days. That's at most. And then you actually get going on it and something always happens and it goes past.
There's always one thing. How often do you get customer builds like that? Like I know it's not very frequent, but I'm sure you have like a couple people who see your work and they're like, I want that. Like, maybe after I post my video, someone's going to be like, I have this brand new Storyteller. I'm going to take it to Tim and Adrenaline, and I want them to do everything. So they come and drop like thousands of dollars, pile of parts.
Yep.
And then you got to kind of like how do you plan shop hours for that?
Yeah, so we have started doing a lot more of those builds where a customer will get a brand new van and they'll call us and say, "Hey, I've got this. It's getting delivered in say June."
Before they even have it.
Oh yeah. So before they have it, they know they're going to come to us, and they know they have a laundry list of things they want, and we'll just go back and forth and kind of fine tune that list. I work with Josh, my sales manager, and we have a big discussion. Okay, what does this customer want? And then realistically, we just break it into bite-sized chunks and figure out how many man hours we have in it. Realistically, where are we going to fit it in the schedule based on everything else that we already have scheduled, and then we just plan accordingly and then tell the customer, okay, we need your van for 5 days, or we need it for 2 weeks. And sometimes customers are real flexible.
Yep.
Especially if it's a brand new van, they're like, yeah, just take it, and when it's done, call us. So we'll try to compress that and get it done as quickly as we can, while still being mindful of the rest of the business, having to get work out the door.
Yeah, and upholding your quality too. It's
of course. That's a big thing, man. It's you just can't rush some of this stuff. Like electrical, for instance, it just takes what it takes, and it is super stressful when you're under a time crunch and the customer's like, "When's it done? When's it done?" And you're like, "Dude, it'll be done when it's done, and it's going to be right." Like.
That's
that's hard. So
I don't want to bore people by nerding out about stuff, but just like running a wire harness that you're making specific for a specific application, and then wire looming it, and then even heat shrinking the ends of it so it stays on the wire in the perfect spot. Like that stuff that takes such a long time, but like it's so satisfying now. Yeah. Now that I know that everything is perfectly protected in its spot, like it's such a good peace of mind knowing that it was done. Took a long time, but it is so dialed that like I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. No, but to answer your question about the big builds like this, it is becoming more popular. I would say we do about one a month or so, where it's a brand new Revel or Storyteller or other van, and somebody has kind of planned out a full laundry list of stuff to do, and we'll have it for a week or two, and just kind of chip through a huge list. It's become more popular. There's still a lot of folks that'll come and they'll do suspension in one go, then they'll go use the van for a few months, come back and do stereo, and kind of piecemeal it that way, which is great too. But doing projects like this are a lot of fun because we get to, do a post, shows the van, do a video, right? And then have a laundry list of stuff we did. And then it kind of opens up people's imagination. They see that and they're like, oh, wow. Like I could put a build together like this, exactly like I want. And they just knock it out in a week, and I come back and pick it up, and it's completely dialed in. Yep. And it saves you multiple trips to multiple vendors to get it done.
Yeah. Like it's interesting that, because I'm sure there are some customers out there who are even new into the space, and they just like consume a lot of content. They're in all the forums and stuff, seeing what people are doing. And I know for a fact there's people, say they're brand new into a Storyteller. They're like, okay, I've never traveled in a van like this before, but they just go and spend a ton of money on these vehicles, which is cool. But at the same time, like I would never have built my van the way that I did just now over the past 2 months if I hadn't done all of the kind of trial and error stuff on my last van.
Right.
Like doing everything that I did to the Revel, it was a very slow process, and it was mainly me using it stock and then improving it where I felt it would give me the most benefits. Like I'm not just doing it because it's cool. Some of the things are cool, but most of it is very functional. And going into a brand new blank slate of a Storyteller Classic, knowing all these new products are out there, I mean, I literally just was able to pick exactly how I wanted this thing to perform. And now, like, I'm ready to go now. I could go live. I might sell my house. I'll go live in this thing now. I got everything I need. And
Ashley, sorry.
She would be down, man. She's bummed that I'm selling the Revel because we did so much in that. Yeah. She's like, no, you should keep it. I'm like, or I could sell it for $100,000+ and buy land.
That's what my girlfriend always says. If I sell a vehicle or a motorcycle, she's like, oh, you're selling all of our memories.
Yeah. And, it's like, okay.
And I made the last case, she's like, you crashed all of our memories. What the hell?
I made so many videos in that old van. I'm like, those are the memories. Those are solidified now. But
it's been a lot of fun building my new van because it's kind of the same thing that you talked about with your Revel, where you added stuff and kind of retrofit as you went. we had that blue van for 3 years, and we've learned so much in 3 years and come so far in just our knowledge and proficiency of what we do here at the shop. And of course, technology has advanced tremendously since then.
Yeah.
So building something new and being able to go right into a brand new, completely empty van and implement everything we've learned and all of the new products and just do it from the go, as opposed to trying to retrofit something that you've built previously, tearing old crap out.
Yeah.
It's so nice. It's really satisfying. And even though I'm in a big rush kind of to get it done, I'm like really pumping the brakes and taking my time, because I want it to be perfect and just how I want it. So.
And like how you're going to use the van now that adrenaline's well off the ground, you're moving forward with like this new shop build and everything, exactly how you should build the van for using it the way you're going to expos and hauling bikes around and stuff like that. So
not living in it, definitely changes how I'm going to build it. And for the last 3 years, what I've done with the van now has really shifted from, say, 7 years ago when I first bought one and was actually living in one. Now it makes a hell of a lot more sense to have more usable space for the things that I need on a personal level for enjoyment, and then also for the shows and the expos.
Well, you already got the wow factor for the shows.
It's getting there. There's a few more bits to go, though. I'm sure everybody on the channel has seen the video of it in its current state.
Yep.
With the wrap and some front bumper and ladders and stuff that are powder coated. But really, this next week we're kind of finishing up the exterior with some Expo rear door carriers that are powder coated, the lime green color. 2 Owl Vans monster boxes on the rear. Just a bunch of accessories. Yeah. And then backwards rear bumper that we're doing in the magenta color. Yeah. And I've got to put the air tanks on it so we get the horn working.
Yeah.
That needs to happen.
That thing scares me every time.
A few more lights. We need a few more lights.
Like I see you pulling up to a campsite or into an expo or something, and I'm like, oh, it's coming. I know it's coming. And I'm braced for this super loud train horn, and it gets me every time. I'm like, shit.
Even though if you know it's going to happen, it still gets you. Oh, the other thing we're going to do is wakeboard tower speakers on the roof. So for backlit, so they change color.
You're going to have a ton of lights on that thing
too. But I'm like, man, we need audio when we're partying, and just hanging out. Let's just get ridiculous and put some badass wakeboard speakers on top that actually sound good, because some of the Class B coaches come with those exterior speakers, but they're pretty crappy. So I want something that really
just get one of those big quad racks on each side or something.
Oh, it'd be wild.
It'd be so loud too. Be pissing off everyone at the campsites. Need a big fridge for a big slide out fridge, beer cooler type of deal too.
We can definitely make that happen. Really, that's how I used the van the most last year. I did a few trips where, a few 3-4 night camping trips where we were riding dirt bikes and camping. So I need to be able to haul the dirt bikes, snowmobile in the winter. But we didn't spend excessive amount of time in it, but I always was with a bunch of friends. And so having food, beverages.
Even a bare bones van, as far as livability items go, like a shower and a toilet, you, as long as you have a place to sleep and maybe something to cook with, even if it's a fucking gas stove, dude, you're good for a week. Easily. Yeah. And it's you're not even roughing it. It's okay, I've shower with a fucking shower pouch towel or whatever.
And I'm buddies with the guy that owns Geyser Shower Systems.
Oh, so John.
So we use, he lives just down the road from me. I mean, literally he's 35 seconds from my house.
I should have hit him up, because last year when I came to visit you, I visited them too and checked out their whole facility.
Cool.
It's a cool product.
Yeah, but just I can throw that in a cabinet in the van and take a shower if I need to.
Yeah. And it's hot too, which is nice.
It is.
It's cool stuff.
Yeah, so we talked about vans now.
We said we weren't going to talk about this, but it's just
fucking impossible.
It's good though, because this is long form of the video that I'm going to film. I'm going to make a video after this, and it's going to be all right, this is what we did for the whole week. And now anyone who watches my video, I'll tell them to come watch this for the actual inside stuff. Right. Because I kind of have to keep it professional and short to an extent, but
on your channel.
Yeah. It's, there's just
Are you calling my channel unprofessional?
Yeah. It's dangerous and irresponsible.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it's nice to talk long form, because I I could talk on my channel for an hour about everything, or more than an hour about everything that we did this past week. And some people like that. I don't know.
I think I'll try to crank this editing out and have this ready to go when you post your video, so we can just kind of do it at the same time. And I think we'll do a short like walkthrough video maybe where you and I just kind of talk over a few things on your van. But this will be if people really care. And I guess we could do a list of what we did on your van this week.
I'll probably when I post my video and stuff, I'll make a full list of kind of everything that we did here, kind of like the itemized sheet breakdown at the end. And any customer could probably come here and get most of what we did.
Yeah, I mean, they could certainly get all of the lights, the compressor system, the stereo,
the steps.
I really don't think there's anything on it that we did that was super custom that we wouldn't do for another customer regularly.
Yeah,
and I try to limit the custom stuff just because it's so time consuming. But
you used to do a lot of custom stuff early on.
Yeah, I mean, we used to do full custom vans, but it's just such a hard thing to have staff for custom and to scale that and really it's just it's hard to make money, to be honest.
All right, so what's outside of van stuff? Because we're just going to keep talking about vans.
Van stuff, cars.
Yeah,
what's going on in your life with cars right now?
I've recently bought a daily driver.
Fucking 400 horsepower daily driver.
Yeah.
Cool.
2023 Toyota Supra Mark V. Mm-hmm. I got it mainly because I'm driving my Tacoma, which is huge, lifted, heavy on 35s.
Right.
Driving the Storyteller around. Storyteller is delightful to drive. Like the new chassis is very, very nice to drive. But for fuel economy alone, I was like, I need a car. I was going to buy a GR86, kind of like the FRS, BRZ.
Sure.
Waited forever for that. And then the longer I waited, the more money I was saving. And I was like, dude, I'm just going to buy a Supra at this point. They released them in a manual transmission. And I was like, that's what I wanted. I wanted a 6-speed, fun, small sports car. So bought that. After this trip, I'm going to be gone for another 2 weeks. But once I'm back, just a couple bolt-ons, get it tuned. Mm-hmm. It'll probably make 450-ish. And I don't want to go crazy with it because it's legit a car that I'm going to drive a lot. I'll take it to the track, do some autocross, but I want it to look good, perform really well, and still be reasonably easy to drive.
Yeah, and the 6-speed, I mean, obviously it's not necessarily the fastest thing to drive around the track, but the fun factor is there. So I 100% get why you did that.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, why would you get the manual when the autos are faster? I'm like, yeah, but it just takes the feeling out of it.
Right.
If I wanted a fast car that was automatic, I would just buy a Tesla. Like I could just press the pedal and beat everything that pulls up next to me. But it's like that's the mindset I'm in. Like if I want a inline 6 turbocharged sports car, I want to be able to select the gears myself. Nothing wrong with like the automatic Supras or any other automatic sports car for that matter. It's just I grew up driving stick, so I feel like there's people who are really hard set one way or the other. They're like, I'll never buy an automatic.
Sure.
I'm not in that boat. But yeah, I just prefer manual.
I think I will make the E300 manual as well when we upgrade the transmission.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we're gonna do a 53BZ out of a Beamer for the transmission.
Okay.
Because that stock transmission in this thing just can't hold up to the power that we're going to be running.
What
So
do you have done to it now? Are there any power upgrades? Or?
No, it's stock.
Okay.
Because I bought the car, so it's a 99 E300 turbo diesel. Mm-hmm. So it's an OM 606 inline 6 3-liter, and it's basically a 2JZ diesel though. So the bottom end is way overbuilt.
Okay.
So
you can make a ton more power.
So you can go easily 450, 500 horsepower on stock internal. Some guys push it even more. And it's a mechanical fuel pump, so it's super easy to turn up. Like bigger fuel pump elements, intake manifold, exhaust, a bigger turbo. I mean, and you're making power.
If you're going to upgrade the transmission, I mean, you might as well go with a 6-speed if you can.
Yeah, so the stock transmission's like maybe good for 230 horsepower or something, and you're going to blow it up.
Yeah.
But I love the car itself. Like, I love the body lines. It looks like a complete... I'm staring at it right now. So I'm looking out the window. It looks like your grandpa's sedan,
But yeah, I mean,
or a Russian mafia sedan.
Yeah, with
black tinted windows,
limo tin. You got the strip on the windshield,
and then the gold Alzar wheels.
Yeah. It's very smooth. I mean, I drove it into town earlier this week twice, and I got back. I was like, dude, I feel like a bunch of things. One, I feel like a Italian mobster, or maybe a drug dealer. I was like, I feel presidential driving around in this thing.
Yeah,
it's very smooth too.
It's quiet when you're in it. What I love is when you start it and people kind of look at you funny because it sounds like a truck idling.
Yeah,
the diesel.
That was the first car that I got in where I had to get in, turn the key, wait for the glow plug light. I'm like, okay, it's ready to start now. It's like I feel like I'm in my old van.
Yeah,
waiting for that to go.
I've always been a bit of a classic car guy, and some people will not define this as a classic car, the W210, but
technically
it's 24 years old.
Yeah, that qualifies
classic, I think,
for a plate. I think antique plates, at least where I grew up, it was like a 20-year-old car.
Wow.
Could get an antique plate, or maybe it was 25.
Right.
And that gives you do they do antique plates in Colorado?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm sure they do. I just don't know what the qualification is.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania, it was, I want to say 20, maybe 25 years. But then if you have it tagged as an antique vehicle, you don't have to do, and don't quote me on this, but it's like you don't have to do emission inspection, some stuff like that. But then there's also something that says like how you're not supposed to drive them at night.
Okay.
Because it's made for like Model Ts and shit like that, like really old,
right,
low technology cars that are generally not really safe to drive at night anyway.
Yeah.
But people are getting I think even Skylines, technically like an R32 you could bring in.
They're getting those plated as antiques.
Yeah, so they don't have to follow the normal guidelines, safety, whatever. But
right,
it's interesting.
No, a lot of people kind of raise their eyebrows with this car and what were you thinking? Why would you buy that? Why wouldn't you buy something that's just fast already or more modern? But I love it. It's like getting into a time capsule every night after work.
The interior is super clean too. It smells like an old Mercedes. In the best way possible.
Yeah. It just it takes you back, and it's funny to sit in it and think this was the top of the line in 1999, and now you could buy a Kia base model that had those amenities probably.
Yeah, it's cool just driving down the road and seeing the hood emblem, the one that's actually sticking up.
The shape of the fenders and everything. It's of course we're just nerding out on cars, a couple of car geeks here, but it's sexy as hell to me. I love it. And so I can't wait to actually turn it up and make some horsepower. I think we're going to do about a 450 horsepower build as basically a drift car, and do the manual. I don't know if we'll get to, doing a handbrake and stuff like that right away. Cause ultimately when we get to that point, the interior is coming out and, it's going to get gutted and turned into a bit of a race car, but right now I'm just enjoying driving this thing and knowing what's ahead, and just kind of planning for it it's fun. Talking about it gets me excited.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I think we would have been way further along. We would have for sure had a turbo and exhaust on it had I not rolled my van, but
things happen.
Shit happens when you're dangerous
and irresponsible and reckless and foolish.
What about motorcycles? Do you have any motorcycles right now?
I got a few right now. I got Honda Grom that I turned into a little dirt bike. You rode that.
Yeah,
you got
tell
me
that
in
story.
trouble.
All
right, let's tell that story. So
okay.
I think that might have been one of the first times we met.
Oh,
two.
I think so. I think we talked on the phone.
Yeah.
Prior to that, you broke your upper shock bolt off.
Yep.
And Agile told you to call me, so you called and I just kind of talked you through what we could do, and you were gonna come out, but ended up getting it fixed in Denver. Yeah.
So this is 2 years ago, and then we met at used to be called the Revel Rally, put on by Mike Reed. We were at Purgatory near Durango, and we were just kind of hanging out, mingling in the same friend group. And then we were chatting, and I was like, wait, I called you about breaking my upper shock bolt.
Right.
And you were like, oh yeah, it didn't click with either of us, whatever.
Yeah.
So we're hanging out at this event. I have my Grom there. I just had it on the back of my Revel and kind of putting around the parking lot, whatever. Tim's big into motorcycles, and he was like, can I go rip this thing? I was like, yeah, sure. And it was kind of late. It was dark out.
Right, 10 o'clock, I think. And
yeah.
May have had a couple of beers.
Maybe. And I was like, yeah, I was like, just don't crash it. Or if you do crash it, whatever, it's a Grom. So I hear him take off and he's like ripping up and back down the mountain or whatever. And then you bring it back to me and you're like, here you go. Cool, thanks. And I hop on it and I like ride it over back to my van. And Mike, the organizer of the event, was like, you got to put that thing away. And I was like, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know what was going on.
He was pissed at that point.
Yeah, and I was not riding it, so I didn't know he was mad. Like, I didn't know why he was mad. And then the next day, I don't know if you told me or Mike told me.
Well, I think it was maybe Mike, but yeah, that night when I took your Grom, I ripped down to the campfire, was hanging out,
and you were like doing wheelies
like through the main drag of the event,
yeah,
like right by Mike's van, and he's like, Talon, put that shit away, like super pissed, and I'm all, yes sir, and then drove it back up there, and I never told you anything for like 6 months, maybe longer.
Yeah, and then I don't
you
even
just
know.
didn't know why Mike was pissed at you.
It might have been we all went camping then when I was testing out a Storyteller a year ago.
Oh yeah, with TC.
Mike was there, TC was there, and yeah, it all clicked. And I was like, Mike, you yelled at me for doing wheelies and riding reckless, and it wasn't even me. And he was like, oh, dude, he's like, I feel so bad. And like, I didn't care. We all just
I felt really bad.
Laughed it off. No, it was funny. It was a good story.
That was fun.
So yeah, I have a Grom. I have a Ruckus that I started working on last year. I did like different variator, jetted it, whatever. Fun little scooter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a Suron. It's like an electric dirt bike. And
few people bought those last couple of years in the van space, right?
Yeah, in the van space and like the overlanding space. They're cool. It's like no maintenance and they're pretty quick. I took mine to Baja last year in April and put a ton of miles on it down there, which was fun. And then at that event that we were just talking about, you had your Husky 701 Enduro.
Right.
And you were telling me all about it. And at the time I had a 2020 ZX10R, which was like tuned and had some bolt-on stuff. It made 190 to the wheel.
Nice.
And riding that around Denver is like a death trap with just because of other drivers.
It's not even fun. You can't utilize it at all.
Yeah. And like it was a bike I always wanted. I love that thing, but I just ended up not riding it much. So traded that in and bought a Husky 701 Supermoto.
Yep.
And that's like my big bike now.
That's a great bike.
Yeah.
I love my 701.
It's good. You got a whole stable of bikes right out here. Right
yeah. Yeah. The 701. And of course I have knobbies on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just great to take off and be able to go anywhere. I can hit any dirt road. I can go hit some single track or play in the desert.
Yep.
Or blast it down the freeway if I need to. It's a perfect do everything bike, and it's still light enough to kind of enjoy off road.
Yeah.
I used to have an Africa Twin that was, one of my favorite bikes of all time, but it was a little bit more of a handful off road, and really the biggest limiting factor with that was just the width. You couldn't take it on certain trails because it was too wide to fit on the single track.
Comfortable though.
Super comfortable. Girlfriend and I did so many 2-up rides on that thing all over the place. But now it's a 701 and I have an MT10.
Yep.
Which is tuned. I just keep really nice tires on it all the time, and that's basically it. Like, it's tuned with a filter, and everything else is stock. And I love that bike because you feel like you're on a fast bike. You feel like you're on an R1, but it's more comfortable.
Yeah.
And
you're more upright.
We tuned it so it's enjoyable. You have that fun mid-range power, and yet you're not going to do over 150 miles an hour. You're not going to do anything. That's stupid, but
yeah,
it's not that stupid.
When cruising speed is 100, it's like, it's hard to.
Yeah, when you're doing 90 plus in first gear, like on your CX, it's just dumb. Whereas this thing is a lot more, for me, a lot more fun and a lot less temptation to go too fast for the street. And we just live so far from a track. Otherwise, I would certainly have just a dedicated track bike.
That's one thing I never did. I used to take, I had a 2015 STI back in the day that I made some videos about, and I used to like autocross that and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I've never taken any of my motorcycles to a track, and I feel like it would be a huge learning experience.
It's so fun.
Yeah, I've ridden very hard, like harder than you should on public roads. Just, that's what you do when you're 16 and have a sport bike. But,
right.
I could definitely like brush up on riding skills if I ever did that.
Yeah, it's the best place to do that. Such a good, I mean, it's a safe environment. And yeah, I did the same thing. You know, when I first got into the riding on the street, you're riding dumb, doing dumb stuff. Think you're going fast, and
Very close
calls all the time. And basically, it got to the point where, well, I got arrested, and there was a helicopter involved, and like 7 cars. And this is
full on breaking out in handcuffs.
Yeah, this was not good. And to make it worse, this was back home in Spokane, where my dad was still. He just retired a couple of years ago, but he was still active police officer. And so, basically, sitting in the back of the car when they had my license, they realized like I was Tim Hines' kid, and they're like, "Fuck, all right, we're gonna let you go. We're towing your bike, but
we're telling your dad
you're a fucking idiot, and yeah, your dad's gonna find out about this, right?" And so at that point, like the next day, Dad was like, "Well, you got 2 options. You know, you could either like get rid of your motorcycle and never ride again, or you can go to the track and like not ride on the street. But those are basically your options."
Those
I was
are
like,
good.
"Yeah,
those are good options.
I'm probably gonna go to the track."
Yeah.
So, and that, honestly, that's what started. I mean, I used to do a ton of road racing and spent many years racing up to national level. I had my pro license. That all stemmed from getting arrested on the street.
What kind of
being a jackass?
racing? Like GP?
Supersport, yeah.
Supersport, okay.
Yeah. So I raced like all of the local clubs in the Northwest. The Washington Club, the Oregon Club,
okay,
AFM in California, and then we did a lot of the WERA national stuff.
Sweet.
And I did a little bit of AMA, and like I said, I had my pro license, did a super sport race, and just I was putting every cent of money that I made into that, and then I'd have to work crazy long, days and hitches. I was working in oil and gas at the time, and my whole life was just dedicated to making money to fund my race habit.
That's an expensive hobby.
It was awesome. Like I wouldn't trade it for the world, and and every dollar that I spent on it, I think was still worth it for those experiences. But man, it's a great way to turn a bunch of money into fumes and noise.
Yeah,
it's just awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, that's like when we're younger, we think it's like that's your life, like that's what you do. I spend a ton of money on motorcycles. I would get a different motorcycle every year, like buying and trading on Craigslist and shit like that. And like from an outsider's perspective, like because I experienced it already, like if I see a younger kid doing that, I'm like, hell yeah, dude. Like that's what I would fucking do too.
Yeah.
But like older generations are like, oh, what are you doing? You're just wasting your money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of that stuff is such like a personality defining thing that like really makes you who you are. Like a lot of that probably turned you into the gearhead that you are now.
Absolutely.
Like wrenching on things and building a business out of it. So it's like, especially like the motorcycle community, people who are not a part of it, they think you're like outlaw, rebel, up to no good type of bullshit. But I mean, it makes you who you are, really.
It does.
It's a big part of a lot of people's lives who ride motorcycles. So
yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world for sure. And I wasn't really into motorcycle racing when I was a kid. We always had dirt bikes, lived in the country and had stuff to ride. But I was more into cars back then. In high school, before high school, I had a '53 Ford F-250 that we completely frame off, resto on, chopped
Sweet.
it. Did a ton of work on that project, and then I bought a '68 Camaro when I was 16, and that was my daily.
That was your daily?
Yeah. That
like
was
lap belt.
Lap belt.
Yeah.
Small block 400 with a turbo 400, we had a Borg Warner Super T10 in that one. My truck had the turbo 400. But
okay.
Yeah, fun car, loud, felt fast, wasn't fast. I mean, it was like a 14.5 second car.
Okay.
But
it's loud. So
it's
it feels
loud,
fast.
and if you do, like, you take a chick out and you're like, oh, you've ever been in a fast car? And she's like, nah. And you're just kind of going through the gears, first, second, third. And then instead of dropping to fourth, you drop back to second, and the whole thing twists because it's all unibody.
Yeah.
It sounds loud as hell. They're like, oh my God. It's really not that fast, but that was fun. I mean, that, and always having something to work on and tinker with. It's such a huge part of my life growing up. My entire dad's side of my family is just a bunch of gearheads.
Yeah.
So we were always restoring cars, And, some of my family had businesses for years that's what they did, was build street rods.
Sick.
And so, yeah, it absolutely translated to what I'm doing now, even though it's not really classic cars. It's still wrenching on stuff and improving things, making them unique.
Since you have that history, I have it too. Have you ever been like brand loyal to any car manufacturer, motorcycles? You were on like a big Kawasaki kick or whatever, or a big Subaru guy, whatever it may be.
Not so much when it comes to cars, because I've had a little bit of everything.
Okay.
But mostly Chevy and Ford stuff, Ford trucks. I've always had Ford big trucks. I had a couple of S10s. I was kind of on an S10 kick for a while when I was younger. But yeah, Ford, Chevy for the most part. And then when it comes to bikes, I was pretty much always a Yamaha guy. Like my very first bike was a Yamaha. I've had a little bit of everything, but the majority of what I've owned has been Yamaha. And several Hondas, like Honda would be second. But when it comes to new bikes, I'm always kind of salivating over the new Yamaha stuff, and like my latest dirt bike was the new 450, it's like, I love the looks of that. I love the changes that they've made. So I've always been a bit of a Yamaha guy. That's what I raced when I was road racing, was R6 and R1. But no, I'm pretty equal opportunity now when it comes to motorcycles. I've had Italian bikes. Just bought an electric motorcycle.
You did?
Stark Varg. It'll be here, I think they're saying end of this year.
Is that a kind of cafe, like Vitpillen style?
No, it's a full-on motocross bike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen that.
They're pretty rad.
Okay. There's a lot of electric.
80 horsepower, dude.
80?
And it's electric, so it's like
it's 100 torque or something like that.
I'd have to look at the torque numbers.
Super torquey.
Ridiculous.
You ever ride Zero motorcycles?
No, I rode the Alta.
Okay. Yeah, there's so many brands out there, but like years ago, before I did YouTube, this had to be 2014 or 15. There was a Zero dealership in Richmond, Virginia, where I lived, and I just went by one day. They're like, "Oh, you want to go out for a test ride?" I was like, "Hell yeah, I do." So me and like the sales guy, we took out. I think they had 4 different models at the time, and we took them out, like swapped bikes, and I rode like everything that they had, and that was the first time where I was like starting to be more sold on electric vehicles. I'm still not sold on them, but I'll be sold on an electric motorcycle before I am on a car, for sure.
Absolutely. The Varg was kind of a tough sell for me initially. Well, I should not say the Varg. Electric motorcycle was a bit of a tough sell, because I rode the Alta when I was racing Supermoto a lot. Okay. And I rode their Supermoto version. It was cool, but you don't have the engine sound and all that, and it wasn't quite there. The technology wasn't quite where I wanted it to be to like make the switch and jump on it. And I don't think I would ever give up internal combustion for electric, but I think that electric has its place. That's the money clap. All right, we're back. SD card was full. I should delete my apps every once in a while, I guess.
Yeah.
So
what were we talking about?
Electric motorcycles.
Yeah.
There's definitely a place for them. Again, I don't think I'll ever replace not in my soul. Will they ever fully replace internal combustion? But I think that they have a place now, and obviously super, super fun.
That's one of the reasons why I opted for the Supra too, because like all of these manufacturers, you hear news articles talking about them all going to electric shit in the next like 5-10 years, whatever it may be. I can't imagine Toyota, even though they teamed up with BMW to make this new Supra, I can't imagine them ever releasing a 6-speed inline 6 turbo vehicle again, which sucks. Like, yeah,
it's sad.
And if that does unfortunately go away, like at least I have one of the last, like holding on to the last good thing that came out, and then it'll probably be worth money someday. But yeah, I'm the same way. Like I can definitely see electric fitting in to specific roles, more so on the motorcycle side than a car, but nothing will replace internal combustion for me either.
I wonder if the gearhead, like as we know it, like how we grew up, if that's going to change to where they're just like electric car gearheads.
Tuners are just like kids with their laptops.
Yeah,
and like,
I mean, how that could be fun. I guess it's cool.
Yeah,
I don't know. It just to me, you cannot replace the enjoyment of like taking something that's stock, physically removing components off of it, bolting stuff back up, starting it up for the first time, right, and watching all the smoke come out because you just, everything's covered in grease and stuff from handling it, and then hearing it after you've made those changes, and then going and driving and feeling the change and just refining it that way. I just don't think you can replace that emotional connection to a vehicle that you've physically put your hands on and modified. Like that's
and it's like you can't work on these new cars yourself, really. Like you can do whatever, bolt on like body kits and maybe suspension, wheels, tires and stuff like that, but you're like hardly turning a wrench at that point. Like you're really just doing cosmetic stuff. Anything performance wise, which is in my opinion like some of the fun stuff where you're getting actual functionality of it, anything like that is a software update. So it's like
like changing a turbo is a pain in the ass. But the whole time you're doing it and like scraping your knuckles and getting dirty, all you can think about is like, holy shit, I can't wait to drive this thing because it's going to be so much fun to drive.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to get that out of working on an electric car.
No.
When I think about like motorsports in general, I mean, I grew up around racing. We lived, as the crow flies, probably 6 miles from the drag strip. So, and we had NHRA World Finals there every year. My dad worked security out there, so I'd get passes when I was like, I think the first year I went was maybe 6, 7 years old. And the first time I ever went and watched a funny car make a pass, vividly remember that, even at that young age, standing on the line. We stood right by the tree, like in the grandstands, one row up. So you were right there. And my dad's like, hey, okay, this one's going to be loud. Because they were running, Pro Street prior to that. And I was like, oh, okay, cover my ears. And when that funny car took off, and you can just feel the percussion against your chest and the sound and just the ground shaking, and then the visual experience of watching it accelerate that fast. There is nothing in this world like that. And I don't know that you would ever get that with an electric vehicle, because there's so much more to the experience than just the pure acceleration, right? Than just watching the thing accelerate. Same with like going to a NASCAR race and standing at turn 1.
Yeah.
Love or hate NASCAR.
I grew up on NASCAR.
You go watch the race and you stand there. It's going to change your life in a little bit.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
It's interesting seeing NASCAR's evolution because like I grew up going to. I mean, my dad was a huge Earnhardt fan.
Sure,
Earnhardt Sr. One of my cousins is actually in the NASCAR circuit. Like he started as a shock specialist for Gordon at the time. And then went from Penske to Hendrick. So he was Dale Jr.'s shock specialist. Now he works for Alex Bowen.
Okay.
So he was monitoring the race that I went to the other week in Las Vegas. But just like growing up, going to a few races and then seeing how they've changed the cars now, it's kind of like F1. Like, unless you've been following it for a little while, you don't realize like how tight the specs are on a car like that. NASCAR doesn't even hold a candle to F1 as far as like team and the engineering in their cars. But just like, I remember when they switched from lugs to like the center, just one center lug, and like seeing the cars now, they look really cool. Apparently I was talking to my cousin the other weekend. He's like, you should see under the bodies of those now. He's like, you wouldn't even know what you're looking at. It's I guess it's just so different. And there's so many regulations and stuff too. Like they used to build their own shocks specific for the team, and they were able to change shim stacks and all sorts of stuff like that. And now a shock specialist for NASCAR, every single car on the field is bolting on essentially the same shock, and all they're doing is making like an adjustment to the shims.
Adjustment,
yeah. So like most of it, it's kind of like in F1 choosing between a soft, mid, and a hard tire. It's like you only really have a few options. So it kind of like neuters things a little bit, but also I guess it levels the playing field a little at the same time too.
I haven't really watched NASCAR in a while. Is it a pretty even field? Like, could you go watch the races and every weekend not know who's going to win?
I think so. I mean, I don't follow it that much. I mean, I should say I don't follow it at all, but I did just go to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway for that race, and it was actually pretty exciting because like I was rooting for Alex because my cousin works on his team and stuff like that, and it's still kind of the same feeling. Like I think it's not like Formula One in the past couple of years where it's like, oh, Mercedes is going to win. Lou Ham's taking it all day, every day.
Sure.
And now it's like Max is up there just crushing things. I feel like NASCAR has more variables to it and the point system and everything. So, yeah, I feel like it might be a little more competitive. It's not just like, who's going to win in F1.
I think MotoGP's done the same as well, where they've made it the parity amongst the manufacturers is pretty good.
Yeah.
You don't really know what's going to happen on race day. Obviously, everybody's extremely talented at that level. Mm-hmm. And certain manufacturers have their strengths and weaknesses, but overall it's pretty damn even, and you don't know what's going to happen. I think that's exciting.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh yeah, Yamaha's going to take it again.
Are the big guys in GP still racing? Like who are some of the top guys? I'm curious if it's the same as. So
you're still thinking like Casey Stoner days, probably.
Yeah.
Valentino Rossi.
Yeah.
And all that.
And I know that was a long time ago, so they're probably not riding.
Yeah. So now, I mean, Marquez is still riding.
Marquez is riding.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's probably one of the names you'd still remember.
Yeah. He's got to be getting old for that.
I don't know how old that guy is now.
But I remember his name from years ago when I would like vaguely follow it.
Jack Miller is also doing extremely well now.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him, but
there's a whole new crop of riders from, I would say, even from 5 years ago now. I mean,
they're probably freaking young too, in their 20s.
Who are these guys and where'd they come from? Fabio Quartararo is one of the favorites, and he's incredibly talented. I think he's like 23 or 24 years old.
Jeez.
So just a lot of young guys coming up.
It's crazy. And like those kids have been on bikes since day one, just riding little pocket rockets around.
So I'm a big Supercross guy. Like that's what I watch, which we're going to watch it tonight.
Yeah.
Supercross party here. But when you watch the commercials for like the Stasic electric bikes that kids can ride, it's kind of like a Strider, but it's electric.
Yeah.
And they have multiple sizes, but you watch the commercial for them, and these kids are tiny. I mean, just a few years old, and they're throwing whips. They've got style. They're ripping, and you're like, what the fuck, man? When I was that age, I didn't have that. I had like a 1978 Yamaha 175 that we were riding in the field, like in ovals. And, obviously I'm not saying like, oh yeah, I'd be a Supercross champion now had I had that, but it does make a difference. I mean,
gets you more comfortable on a bike.
You're not going to be a Supercross champion unless you started at that age and have what's available to you.
I don't think I even touched a motorcycle until I was 16.
16.
Yeah, because like
really?
I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, but my dad wasn't really into bikes or anything. I just rode mountain bikes everywhere. I got like a Mongoose from Walmart.
Yeah.
So I was always on bikes, but parents got divorced when I was like 10 or 11, and then I kind of moved around all over the place. My dad bought a Harley, and then it might have been to kind of like spite my mom a little bit. I don't know, but my dad helped me buy my first motorcycle.
Sick.
So got a CBR, and that was like the first proper motorcycle I rode. I remember pulling out onto the road for the very first time on that thing, and I was just like, oh my God. I like making a right-hand turn,
game changer.
Swung super hard into the oncoming lane. I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to steer this thing. But yeah, if I grew up riding dirt bikes, which I wish I did, it would be very different. It would be a game changer.
No doubt. I can't imagine not growing up with motorcycles and cars in my life, for sure.
Yeah. I was big into Volkswagens when I was like 15, 16. There was like a big Volkswagen crew in my area.
In Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Wow.
My very first car I bought when I was 15, which is when you can get your driver's permit. Mm-hmm. It was a 92 VR6 Corrado. Are you familiar with the Corrado at all?
No.
They're cool. I feel like you would like the styling of them. They're very cool cars. But drove that thing for a while, and then I got into Subarus for a while because I was big into skiing in wintertime, and then Subarus all the way up until I moved here. And I was like, I can't drive a Subaru in up 70 in Colorado, so got a Toyota, and that does a lot better.
Yeah.
So that goes back to like my question about brand loyalty. I went from like Volkswagen to Subaru, now to Toyota.
Yeah, zero loyalty, clearly.
I mean, yeah, I go in phases. Like I would love to own a Ford truck someday, just like a proper full size truck. But yeah, and then bikes. I'm not brand loyal at all.
Right.
Started with Hondas. I had a WR250 Yamaha for a while. Had a Suzuki DRZ. I've owned everything except a Ducati, a BMW, and a KTM.
Okay. Well, you can leave the KTM off. You don't need to. You don't have to check
Husky's
that
the
box.
same thing.
Shut up, dude. It's different. It's not fucking orange.
Okay, I didn't know if you were saying they're the same or you hate KTM.
I'm just not a KTM guy.
I like orange though. My van is all KTM orange.
I can't believe we're gonna do a door emblem for you in orange. That's terrible.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
It's gonna be sick.
it's gonna be a game changer.
Game changing.
So I think Brooke just showed up.
Yeah, we got to go film a video.
She's
now.
gonna film us talking about your van again.
Yep.
And then we're going to go to get some shots, golden hour sunset shots, be real romantic. My van, your van.
It's going to be glorious. Can't wait.
So we'll get that. And then we're going to watch some Supercross and drink a little beer. It's going to be good.
Yeah. Need to pick up some more whiskey.
Yeah. Thanks for being on, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Dude, we did a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
This week,
that was rad.
It's been a great time.
That was a great week. Glad to have you out. So anytime you're in the area, swing by for sure.
Definitely.
Bring a dirt bike next time.
I should. I'm going to go buy another one.
Do it. All right.
See you,
Cheers.
man.